Alright guys, I'm finally out here just braving the weather. I put a lot of work and effort into creating this, a single wire weather pack connector, because what I did was filled in the back side of this because it's hollow with JB weld, sealed everything up with heat shrink in preparation to grab a 5-volt reference signal that usually goes to the oil pressure sending unit and reroute it to pin number 34, blue connector at the computer, because I thought through all the hours of research and talking to everyone I could come up with that I needed that 5-volt reference or 5-volt signal to tell the computer I had park and neutral, which in turn will help the computer understand how to use the adaptive idle tables, timing, etc. to stop my underspeed issue after revving or after coming to a stop from driving. But after I built this thing, I had I had a reply on my YouTube channel where a guy was saying that his PRI harness had a park neutral wire, but it says it's supposed to go to ground, not a positive or 5-volt source. So I got to doing a little bit more research today, and I was like, okay, this is weird, because you'll notice that when you run across these stupid harebrained problems with your car, no matter how much research you do, if you don't put in the exact terminology, the wording, everything exactly correct, you won't find everything you really need to know. So today, apparently, I was using different terminology, different search parameters, and found a bunch of information not specifically to the Silverado GMC 99 through 05 or 06 pickup trucks, but a bunch of information about people who were using that pin number 34 on their computer to tell the computer it had park and neutral through the LS1 GTOs, like swap forums. A bunch of different people were saying they run into the same issue I'm having. So adding that park neutral ground to pin 34 is all I needed to do. On the switch, if it hits the circuits for park or neutral, it just grounds that pin number 34, and the computer thinks, okay, the transmission's in park or neutral. I'll just go ahead and ground pin number 34. We'll fire this thing up and just find out if it works or not. Okay guys, I have been procrastinating long enough, so I have decided that I am not a very good tuner. I am trying to get all the final things changed or upgraded on the Blazer to where I can take it to Just Tune and have him professionally tune it. But came to the realization Monday of this week, where I took my son to school in the Blazer trying to get some drive data because I was experiencing some timing retard, and got home and couldn't shut the car off because the ignition tumbler had broken. So I dove into this thing. I'm somewhat optimistic that I'm going to be able to get all the parts back and put it back together. There's one little piece that has something to do with the turn signals I'm going to have to try to figure out. But this thing got stuck in the on position. I wasn't even able to turn the car off. Thank God my tune sucks, and I could go out there and just kind of blip the throttle a few times, freak out the IAC and make it die. Because I've had that problem with bricking my ECU before, I was really hesitant to just run out there and yank the negative cable off the battery. Because, my luck is so good, I'm sure I would have jacked up my computer or something stupid. So I was lucky enough to be able to get it to stall, because that stupid idle, you know, what I call light throttle input idle recovery is still just junk. I can rev it to 2, 3, 4,000 on a heavy throttle and it'll return to fine, but it's like that super fine tuning of like I call it parking lot driving, where, you know, like let's say it's idling at 750, 725, 750 RPM, and you might have to go up to let's say 1,500 to pull forward in a parking lot or at a stoplight. But when you let off the throttle, then it does that stupid underspeed dive, starts, I would call it surging, and then it stalls. I don't know, I'm so sick of trying to tune this piece of junk that I just want to pay the $350 or $400 and just get the stupid thing tuned so I can move on to some other parts of this project I want to work on. So today we are outside braving the cold, and we'll keep our fingers crossed that my iPhone doesn't shut off, because apparently my iPhone is super sensitive to cold weather and will just randomly shut itself off. So let's get into this thing and see if we can get it put back together. Okay, here's the steering column with the ignition lock cylinder removed. It just has one Torx head bolt that holds the lock cylinder in. The other one literally just got wedged or stuck forward. I end up ripping the outside collar off of it, trying to pry it backwards, because no amount of pushing in, pulling out, wiggling the key, turning the steering wheel, nothing would let that stupid thing come back. So I just went and got a $16 or $18, they call it ignition lock cylinder, and we're going to go through and put it in, because really all it does is slide into the hole with a locating like a keyway, and then you'll have that bolt that holds it in. So let's get that thing put in real quick. Okay, there's the Torx headed screw or locking pin, whatever you want to call it, that will hold the ignition tumbler or switch in. So now that I've got that thing, it literally just pushes in, just, you know, no problem. Now we're going to install that and start getting this thing back together. Better angle. I figured my fat fingers were getting in the way a while ago. You just literally got to just keep push in pressure on your lock cylinder until that little locking bolt will slide in past the receiver groove, and then just tighten it up. Okay guys, just a quick update. I have the ignition lock cylinder installed. I got my blinkers all installed with the 3 screws for it. Arm hooked back up, and as I suspected, there was a little bit of an interruption because my iPhone got too cold and shut off. So anyway, this was a pretty self-explanatory install on this 1985 S10 Blazer. Way easier than some of the older vehicles I've done in the past. So now I'm going to go, and I've already turned it on, verified all my ignition powers, constant powers, fans, blinkers, you know, everything's working. So now I'll put the actual steering wheel back on. Hey guys, as usual, it's just a cluster, you know what. Trying to get out here and do anything when it's this cold. I haven't been able to get hardly any work done on a couple of sets of cylinder heads I need to be porting. Basically because I can't run my air compressor. I can't get it warm enough in this stupid garage to make the air compressor want to run. It just darn near burns up the electric motor that turns the belt for the compressor to try to get it running. You know, if I had a heat gun or some kind of a like bottle warmer like you'd use for nitrous, I might be able to wrap it around that stupid compressor motor and make it work. I don't know, but at this point I'm hoping that by this weekend, with the temperatures coming up to 50, I'll be able to get out here and get some progress, you know, more progress done on these cylinder heads. It's literally been both depressing and aggravating for me to not be able to get out here and get some work done. And you know, naturally this S10 Blazer tune is still being a challenge. I did get that, of course, that part neutral fix. That's a win, I guess. But it totally changed the tune that I had in there and made it ineffective. So all the little things I tried to do in the tune previously to get it to idle or recover idle without the part neutral input totally jacked up the tune. So now that I have that, I've had to start over. So I wanted to do a cold start on it today just to see if I have fixed parts of the tune, because once I got the part neutral working, it got to where it didn't want to start. It didn't want to start cold. It didn't want to start once it was hot. That was the first time since I've been trying to tune it that I had issues with starting. Previously the only huge headaches I had was recovering idle after I revved it or something like that. It always would start. Alright guys, I'm in the vehicle. This thing is dead cold. It hadn't been started in several days, but I have been trying to adapt the tune and the idle parameters to hopefully, God willing, make this thing where it'll cold start again. I did finish my lock cylinder installation since I broke the other one. So let's just see if this thing will start. Kind of let it cycle a little bit. Almost. Come on, baby. Number one, it's not trying to flare up like it should on a dead cold 30, it's either 32 or 34 degrees right now. It should go to a higher RPM. But see how it's just trying to start and then slobber on itself? Oh my God. This thing is so challenging, I just don't understand. I'm torn between bullets and matches on how I want to move forward with this dang thing.